Junior hockey is ruthless. It's not just a new level, it's a whole new battlefield that every player has to basically learn how to master. But most players get dropped into it unarmed and without a map, so they have no idea how to effectively handle it. Whether it's coaches lying and ghosting you because they overpromised you a spot on a team or ice time and they never gave it to you, watching games from the stands because you got scratched or silenced and told, hey, you're not going to be in the lineup even though I know you did all the right things, getting cut, sent down, left without a team, scrambling to try to find a spot, being torn apart and made fun of just because you're a rookie on a team, rookie parties that mess you up both mentally and physically. Junior hockey has thousands of ways to break a player both mentally and physically. And before we get into how to actually survive junior hockey, let me explain a bit about myself. If you don't know me, I'm Corson. I've played hockey for over 19 years. I played AA, AAA, Junior B, Junior A, played all the way up until Division III NCAA. I've coached hundreds of players on how to master their mental game, all the way from AA all the way up into the AHL. I've helped them build elite level confidence and mental control so they can show up confident when it actually matters, which is in games. You can think of me like a car mechanic, but for your mind. But remember, I wasn't always a coach. I've actually lived this stuff. And I remember nights during junior hockey where I was so stressed, all I could do was just throw on a Joe Rogan podcast just to try to get my mind off of what was actually going on. I just tried to forget what was happening, all the stress I was feeling, and I just needed to mentally escape a lot because it was way harder than I expected to handle, whether it's moving away from home, whether it's facing all these challenges, all of this stuff, you just aren't really fully prepared for it until you get there. And deep down, if you don't have the mental tools and you haven't prepared yourself at all for this, it's probably going to break you down. And I remember having that feeling of knowing, man, like this is not sustainable. I can't keep feeling like this. Because deep down, I knew one really bad game could mean my spot was gone. If I had an off week of practice, I might not be in the lineup next game. And now, sure, you're going to hear people say, oh man, junior was the time of my life. It was the best. But here's what they don't say. A lot of those guys where junior was the time of their life, they were stars. They were already the guy that everybody loved. They could pretty much do anything they wanted. They could show up late. They could say dumb stuff at the rink. They could coast through practice, and they could still be in the lineup. And now that's not for everybody. Obviously, there's lots of people who had to work hard, and everybody has to work hard to some extent. But what I'm saying is that these guys that typically say, oh, junior wasn't too bad, they just didn't have to face what the other 99% of players have to face. I've literally seen star players on teams about to get a speeding ticket from a police officer, and they say, oh man, I didn't realize who you were. And then right away they say, hey, no worries. And they just, they crumple up the ticket. Like that happens all the time. Stuff like that. It's crazy. And here's the truth. Junior hockey isn't actually built for development. Everybody says that, but it's not really the case. Junior hockey is more about survival and learning how to develop yourself as a player. It's not really about other people developing you, because a team can promise anything. They can say, hey, we want to take you for 4 years, and then they can scratch you at any point. They can remove you from the team, cut you anytime they want. You are basically at the whim of whatever these people decide to do. And people might say, oh, Corson's being a hater. I don't like when people say this stuff. Oh, it's because you didn't succeed. The reality is I just see this happen with so many other players that it's not just my experience. It's what I watch happen to hundreds and hundreds of players. Basically, every day in junior feels like you have to prove yourself that you belong here. You deserve to be at this level and you deserve whatever you have. And you know that in the back of your mind, this can be taken away at any point. And that is where most players mentally break. They mentally fall apart because it is really difficult to deal with that stress, especially if you don't actually have any mental frameworks to do it. A lot of players think if they just train harder, they skate faster, they push more weights, they do some extra skill reps on the ice before and after practice, that they'll finally become the player they want to be, that they'll finally get their shot, that all the stress will eventually go away and it'll eventually become easy. But here's the truth. Most players who get cut, overlooked, scratched, it's not because they lack the skill or ability. They lack a system to help them show up the best version of themselves consistently. It's not that they can't do it sometimes, it's that they consistently don't show up at the right level. And these are the exact players I see. They have great physical tools, they have a really strong work ethic, and they have a deep desire to improve, but they have no structure for their mental game. So here's how to build your mental game structure so you can not only survive in junior hockey, but actually thrive and become somebody who reaches their potential. Because without structure, pressure, your game is not going to reach its full potential. You're not going to be able to be consistently your best. You're going to struggle to know what to do day to day. You're going to have a lot of stress and not know how to get rid of it. And I don't want that for you. And so the first step is having a mental operating system, one that allows you to wake up every day and know that you have a way to program your confidence, deal with stress, and get yourself in the right state to really attack the day. So you have the ability to handle if your teammates chirp you, if your coach is just not talking to you, if your coach is yelling at you, if you have stress with your billets, whatever those things are, having a system that allows you to get into the right mental space right away is massive. The next piece is having a principle-based IQ lens on your game. So you don't just want to train harder, but you actually want to train smarter, like everybody says. But the question is, okay, what does it look like to actually train smarter, to prepare smarter for your game? You want to understand how to actually read the game like an elite player. Because when you can learn to read the game and see the patterns, this allows you to start to influence the game. You can start to say, well, I want to shape the game. I want to use deception to move the game where I want it to go. And you can learn how to actually do that skill. It is a skill. Influencing the game, being deceptive, is an ability you can develop. You just need to learn what those tricks and patterns are. And then you also want to have the ability to improvise. So not only with IQ do you want to be able to read the game, see what's going to happen, influence it and shape it, you also want to have the ability to actually say, ooh, okay, I want to take the game here. And now, oh, okay, something different happened. I wasn't ready for that. And you can react and make a quick move. And then the third thing is having a strategic training filter. And I say this because effort doesn't necessarily equal progress. Most people think that, man, if I just push really hard, if I put a ton of effort in, everything's going to work out. But in reality, it's actually about putting in effort in the right things, because when you do the right things allow you to actually improve in the right areas. That's all hard work is about, is hard work leading me to improve something? Is it increasing my ability to perform in the places I want to perform? So you can work for, an hour a day of high quality work and get better than somebody who spends 4 hours a day if that 4 hours a day is just doing Zorros and Michigans all day, right? It really does make a difference what you decide to work on. So you want to have a proper system that allows you to know what to focus on based on what happened in your games, what happened in your training, the feedback you're getting from coaches, from scouts, and whatever other places you're learning from. So having those three pieces, the mental operating system, the principle-based IQ lens, and then having a strategic training filter is going to allow you to have the core tools to be able to not just, again, survive, but thrive in junior. And look, I'm not saying that just because you learn these things, it's going to guarantee you play D1 or play in the NHL. But what I'm saying is that 99.9% of players never even get close to their potential because they lack these basic things. They assume that if they just keep doing the stuff in the gym and they just keep training hard, skating hard on the ice, doing some random extra reps, oh, I'm going to reach my potential someday. But then the window closes. You realize by the time you get close to 20, you're pretty much kind of on track to play at the Division 1 and high level pro, or by the time you kind of age out in your 20, 21-year-old year, technically it's like 20 turning 21, you kind of have to decide, like, is this what I'm doing? Am I going to push for this? Now, you might get to college and you play either D3, D1, or potentially play like ACHA. Wherever you get with that, now there's this window of like, okay, am I headed towards pro or am I headed towards like kind of edging out of my career, like moving away from it? There is this transition that will happen, but what you do in junior is going to have the biggest impact on what that trajectory is. And most of that is the mentality you have throughout the early years of your junior career. Because if you're 18, 19 and you're like, I don't even think I'm going to make D1, and you're already kind of quitting on yourself there, then a lot of the things you want to accomplish will slowly start to fade away because you're not going to do the extra work, the extra reps. You're not going to learn the right things at the right times. And it's all going to lead you to just missing that window. And so the guys that we work with, we want to help them maximize their opportunity to reach their potential. Because yes, you may make mistakes. You may do the wrong thing sometimes, but having a proper mental system is what gives you the baseline to understand, okay, I get myself in the right place every day. I train my IQ. I get myself feeling confident. Self-belief is high. I have that deep trust in my ability so I can get into flow state, so I can improve faster in practice and trainings and from games. I know how to reflect and learn from it because I have that strategic training filter. And now everything starts to kind of of cycle, and ideally it spirals up and leads you to where you want to go. Now, if this is really hitting for you and you know you need a system so you can dig deeper and you can really build on this, we do have a link below where you can click and you can check out the free training we have. So you can check out kind of this whole free training system to start to learn just the basics of how we approach the mental game. And then if you want, you can also just jump straight on a call with myself or one of my assistant coaches. We can actually look at your game, talk to you about what you're dealing with, and see if it makes sense to jump on a call and really dig deeper, because there is a lot we can do. There's a lot we can build off of here. And we have full programs and in-depth coaching where we can actually help you learn all these systems. Now, I bet you're asking now, okay, like cool, Corson's already kind of pitched me on the program and all that stuff, but what is this system? How does it work? And how can I implement it into my hockey career? So let me break it down for you. So if you're still watching this, you know that just grinding and working super hard is not really going to work if you don't actually have like a map of what I need to do to get better. And so you need an actual structure, right? Because if the structure doesn't lead you to getting to where you want to go, which is, again, you could train for like 5 hours a day every day, but then you get into the game and 5 minutes in, you make a mistake and now you just lose all belief in yourself. Well, then it didn't really matter too much, right? Like it wasn't an effective system, because when it really mattered, you fell apart. And a lot of times that's the case, is that you have all the ability, but then the mental game gets in the way because something goes wrong, somebody chirps you, the fans scream at you, and now all of a sudden you're just out of your game. It's like, well, all that work you did wasn't really worth it then, right? And so the top players I've coached, the way that we develop their mental game and the way we develop their kind of mental system overall is to think of it in kind of 3 core layers. So how we kind of think of this is the first layer is understanding how to do daily mental programming. Now, when I say mental programming, what I mean is you want to think of yourself kind of like a mental engineer. You're always kind of crafting and shaping your brain. All the things that you input into your mind through either the things you think or through the experiences you have, all of this stuff is essentially influencing the way you perceive the world. So what's really interesting is, for example, let's say you're reading a book. So I don't know, this is just a hypnosis book. So say you're reading this and you're kind of going through it. And as you're going through it, you're really focusing on like each word, and you're really focused as you kind of go through and understand what's happening. So what's really interesting about when you focus and you read is that you are directly thinking the thoughts that are in that book. Or when you listen to a podcast and you're very focused, wherever your attention goes, you are basically slowly programming your brain to believe that, because whatever you think consistently will slowly become a belief. Even if something happens in the real world, but you say, that's not real, I know this is the case, you will believe that thought over time. Sometimes what happens is that you have beliefs that will basically kind of move you towards one direction. And sometimes you have like actual like events in your life that reinforce that. So for example, it's like, I'm a goal scorer. I say that, I believe that, I think that. And now you have, okay, I actually score some goals. And early in the season, if these two things align, they kind of push each other up. But then what can happen is if you say, I'm a goal scorer, but you keep missing, or you're not getting ice time, you're not scoring, well, that belief will drive down. And eventually that experience, if the beliefs in the mental game is not strong enough, that will start to dip and you'll stop believing in yourself too. And then both will drop and you'll actually not believe in yourself. Your beliefs will suck, right? And so why this is super important is because as a player, you want to learn how to actually program your beliefs so that you can engineer the way that you see the world. The most simple way to do this is just starting out with very basic meditation techniques. Now, there are tons of levels to this, and a lot of our programs, this is what we do, is we help you kind of build and learn the progression of different meditation and programming techniques. But if you even just start the day, sit up in your bed, 10 minutes, make sure you sit up so you can't fall asleep, and just observe your thoughts, observe your emotions, notice what's going on in the body. You can feel emotions in the body, so notice, where is it? Okay, and then kind of talk to that spot and say, okay, what's going on there? How am I feeling? What am I thinking? And very quickly, you'll be able to notice that, oh, there's almost like a little bit of like a personality there. Like for me, maybe I have like a feeling in my chest. If you study anything like IFS, you'll start to realize that, oh, like maybe there is something to a lot of these concepts that you can start to notice and bring to the surface. A lot of things that are kind of sitting in your subconscious mind are kind of stored kind of like in the body. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score that kind of highlights and talks about this concept. And so where this all comes from is the ability to take control of your mind and just start with simple meditation and just sitting there watching the breath, noticing the thoughts, paying attention to the emotions, any of these techniques can be very effective. You can literally just go on YouTube and search like meditations, and I'll be putting out some free hockey meditations soon enough. But just looking at that is awesome, right? Just putting on anything. But even if you don't follow a structure, because again, if you follow just random YouTube structure, not always going to be optimal. But if you follow a actual just general plan of I'm going to sit here for 10, I'm just going to watch, it will make a massive difference. Do that for like a week and just notice how different the rest of the day is. Notice how you feel like you can actually observe what's there, what's going on in your mind, and you can speak to it, you can deal with it, and then now you feel like you're not constantly chasing everything that's going on. You can actually just fully lean into it. And so there's some clips with Kobe talking about this where he talks about how he approaches that. There's clips of, tons of different professionals, Phil Jackson, who won, 11 different rings, both playing and coaching in the NBA. All of this stuff is so powerful. And again, you'll hear people say it all the time, but until you start practicing it, it goes from being just this cliche thing to, oh wow, like my mental game actually improves just by learning how to do these basic programmings very early in the morning. So start with that. That's a great place to start. 10 minutes is really not that big of a deal, and that will get you on the right track. So that's kind of layer 1. Now layer 2 is the IQ system. So here's the thing with IQ. A lot of times the mistake that people make when they start working on their IQ is that they watch a lot of hockey games, they watch a lot of hockey film like of themselves, they watch YouTube videos where they talk about some interesting things, and so they just learn a lot of cool stuff, or they see some specific things, they're like, oh, that's cool, or they watch a game and they see the whole play, maybe they identify a clip and they're like, I want to do that, and then they think, let's try that in practice. But what players typically miss, and what we do in our programs, is we help players to understand how to actually develop the principles that connect to all other aspects of the game, both with the puck, both without the puck, understanding how to play offensively, how to play defensively, how to actually move off the puck to be more effective, to get the puck more often. When you understand the principles of how to do these things, now you actually have a path to then get into the specifics. When you watch a game, you'll start to notice how players use those principles, and you can then apply different concepts. It's less about saying, oh, there's a specific play, let me just try to do that now. It's understanding why the player does that play in that situation, and then you can start to add that into your game. It's so powerful when you learn hockey IQ like this, because you go from hockey IQ being something that you just hope you develop over time to, okay, I understand the principles. Now you do a ton of mental reps to visualize it and deeply ingrain these into your subconscious mind, into your instincts. And then you go out into practice and you do them more and you test it, and it will just naturally happen in practice because you visualized it so many times, right? So that's why having a start the day mental programming practice for getting your thoughts and emotions dialed in, then it's having more of a visualization to get your actions aligned and dialed in. Once those two things are aligned, you have the principles of hockey IQ dialed in, the pieces will start to fit together. They'll start to make so much more sense. And see how both of these are, again, they're mental game things. And hockey IQ is often not thought of as the mental game, but it absolutely is the mental game. It is happening in your mind, and the ability to see the game, read the game, then learn to influence it using these principles, and then understanding how to react and be improvisational and be flowing and tension free on the ice. All this stuff comes from get the mind out of the way, allow yourself to have belief in yourself, trust yourself, have confidence in yourself, get focused, dialed in, put your attention on the right thing, think effective thoughts, feel effective feelings, and then you go into the actual game, you use the decision making, you make the plays you want to make. And then naturally, the third core layer that all these players that we work with, we teach them, and the best players in the world just naturally do or learn from other coaches that are at that top level. They understand how to strategically self-coach. And this is a really big concept. And what I mean by this is it's a concept that players miss, because and self-coaching basically means self-leadership. It means being able to step into a room and not need to, scream at yourself, and means not needing to scream at other people, but knowing how to lead the way and get what you want to get done. If you want to make something happen, it's knowing how to get that to happen. So self-leadership or self-coaching really means knowing what to train and why. It means building training phases that match your energy and goals for that day. It means knowing when to push and when to pause and hold back and rest. It means knowing when to use different mental techniques, when to calm your emotions before you spiral out. It means taking ownership of your preparation process during the week leading into games. It means taking control of the process of how do I prepare on game morning, game afternoon, right before the game? How do I get myself recovered right after the game? What do I do? What actions do I take? It's having a system laid out. And most players fall into one of two traps. One, they try to copy other people's plan, which is not specific to them, so then they end up not improving the things they need to improve. You don't need to do the same thing McDavid does. You need to do what you need to do, and that's something you have to figure out. Or number two, you have a player who burns out because they overtrain, they push themselves too much because they can't understand that they have this part of their brain that's like work, 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 but they overwork, they don't recover, they get injured, they make mistakes, they put themselves in bad positions because they're too tired, not thinking on the ice. I know I did that throughout my career. I think a lot of the times where I got hit and got injured or tweaked something or had to get surgery, a lot of those things were because I was not focused in the moment because I'd overtrained, I'd overthought something, and a lot of that stemmed from my inability to coach myself. And this can happen at any age. Like players at a very young age, 5, 6, 7, 8, you can learn to become a better self-coach and lead yourself better. And if you want to be a leader on a team, you need to learn how to lead yourself first. If you can't lead yourself, how can you possibly lead other people, right? So internal leadership leads to external leadership. And that's why a lot of the players we work with tend to become captains and leaders on teams, because when you really learn this stuff, when you really dive into how to become a better leader, how to handle your thoughts, emotions, how to handle challenges, set up a system, organize your week, put it into your calendar, show up on time for things, you gain control over something that is a game changer. So that's kind of the third layer, and that's why I think everybody should learn these 3 layers kind of in that process of the first layer is understanding how to do mental programming on a daily basis. Then it's having a hockey IQ system and learning the principles and understanding how to actually build that, not just watching film, but knowing how to actually develop the right principles. And then layer 3 is the strategic self-coaching. And when these layers click, everything starts to change for a player. I've seen it happen, 100 plus times, probably hundreds of times. And when they click, it's just everything makes sense. They don't just hope for confidence, right? A player doesn't just hope it works out. They actually build confidence and they show up consistently with it. Players stop chasing ice time and they start earning the ice time because coaches actually trust them, because they trust themselves and then the coach trusts them. And they stop feeling overwhelmed and they start feeling in control of their hockey career. Because fundamentally, confidence, which is what all players really want at the end of the day, everybody tells me that, I want to be confident. But confidence really comes from having a system, right? Having a system for your mind, your body, just a whole system overall. And then it's trusting that system and having faith in that and knowing how to actually improve it over time. When you combine these things, confidence really equals system plus trust plus iteration, and you will become a better player. So I want you to realize, if you want to survive and thrive in junior, you only get one shot at this. You only get one opportunity to actually succeed and get to where you want to go. Once you're done with junior, a lot of your career is kind of set. Like a lot of the trajectory is already kind of moving in a certain direction. Now, it doesn't mean if you're a college guy or a pro guy watching this, you can't be successful if you're not on a great track right now. It's just a reminder that this is such an important time. And for the guys who are older, you can speak to this. You know the experience of this. It's real. The time is so important from the time you're 15 all the way up until the time you're 20. So many things can change. So much of your development happens in that time, and you can really get on track here or you can fall off track. So realize this isn't about motivation. This is about building a mental architecture, a structure, so that when you get scratched, when your roommate gets called up and you don't, when the game's on the line, you need to deliver, when you get a big opportunity on the power play, do you have the tools to handle it? Do you have the tools to succeed? And if you don't have a system of tools and you don't know how to use them, then you're probably going to fall apart when it really matters. And I don't want that to happen to you. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to be real with you that I've been there. I spent, whatever it was, 5 years in junior. I went through it. I know the mistakes I made. I should have played Division I, but I didn't because I did a lot of stupid things. And I think that a lot of players can avoid those mistakes if you want to really take it seriously. So if you're serious about having a breakout year this season, you really want to build your mental game in the off season, not just wait for the season to come, but you really want to develop these skills, both the mental ability, the hockey IQ, and all the components of a proper mental system, nutrition, sleep, recovery, recovery. If you want to get everything in alignment, you want to maximize your development and build a massive, awesome ramp going into the season, then you can check out below. We have a link that you can click on, and I said it before, it's a link where we can jump on a call with you for 15 minutes. We can talk through things, we can break it down, and really help you understand what it is that's missing in your game, what it is that you need. And if we think we can help you, we'll set up a full 60-minute call where you can jump on specifically with me. I'll talk you through all the details. It'll be with you and your parents, and we'll figure out if it makes sense to work together, or I'll just send you on a good path with some specific resources to go use. That's my recommendation if you're serious about it. I have limited spots for these. I only have very, very limited spots for the full 60-minute call. So that 15-minute call is to really see how serious you are and if, we really think we can help. So check that out. Appreciate your time. That's my guide of how to survive junior hockey and how to thrive in junior hockey. If you feel like I missed anything, let me know. This is not the be-all, end-all of this. There's way more to dig into. So appreciate you taking the time. This is a long one. So if you're here, I know you're serious. And why are we not working together if you're really listening to this? But, don't want to push you or anything. I get it. I wouldn't have trusted me either. It would have probably taken me way too long. I would have waited my whole hockey career and then realized, probably could have just worked with a mental coach to solve a lot of these things. And that's why I do what I do now. That's why I say what I say now, because I know the things I did that I probably should have just fixed. I should have fixed quicker, because you're going to pay in time or you're going to pay in money basically. And if you wait 5 years, and you don't develop for 5 years, or you miss out on a huge development opportunity that you could have learned in 8 weeks, right? Imagine 2 months from now you solve something that could have taken you 60, 70, 80 months. What's that worth to you? For me, looking back in my junior career, if I'd have solved this when I was 16, 17 and really had somebody in my corner who could have been real with me, who helped me with these things, would have been worth a lot. Not just money, but just a lot of different things. So hope that helps you think through things, and I'll see you guys in the next one.